The air was crisp and cool, the sun dipping low over the hills, casting long shadows over the rocky path they followed. Haru led the way, his boots crunching against the dry earth as they approached the edge of the cliff where the herbs grew in abundance. The view was breathtaking, rolling hills beneath a bright sky, but Haru's attention was focused on the delicate plants scattered across the jagged rock face. "I've never liked this spot," Haru murmured, crouching down to collect the herbs, his hands careful and steady. Leo followed behind, his eyes scanning the surrounding area, ever watchful. He knew Haru had a quiet resilience, but seeing him so close to the edge made his heart flutter with a strange, protective urge. Haru reached for a particularly rare flower growing precariously near the ledge. The ground beneath him shifted, and before he could steady himself, his foot slipped. "Careful!" Leo shouted, his instincts kicking in. He lunged forward, grabbing Haru's arm just in time to keep him from toppling over the edge. His heart pounded in his chest, the proximity to the steep drop adding a rush of adrenaline. For a moment, they stood frozen, Haru's weight supported by Leo's firm grip. Haru's breath hitched, eyes wide with surprise. Leo's chest was pressed against his back, and he could feel the warmth of his body through the thin fabric of his shirt. "Thanks," Haru whispered, his voice a little shaky. His heart raced, too, but for a different reason. The sudden closeness left him flustered, heat creeping up his neck. He straightened up slowly, avoiding Leo's gaze, his face flushed. I guess I wasn't paying attention." Leo released his hold, but his hand lingered a moment longer than necessary, his fingers brushing Haru's arm. "Don't worry about it," Leo said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his own heart. He felt something stir within him, a fluttering he didn't quite know how to name. "I've got you." The words hung in the air, and for a brief, charged moment, neither of them moved. Haru, his hand still gripping the herbs, tried to collect himself, but the warmth of Leo's touch lingered, making his pulse thrum in his ears. Haru cleared his throat, averting his eyes. "Right, well, let's gather the rest of these before it gets dark." Leo nodded, his mind still racing. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt this way, this mix of worry, relief, and something more. As Haru crouched to collect the herbs, Leo couldn't help but watch him, his gaze lingering longer than intended. The moment passed, but the strange feeling that had settled between them refused to fade. The air had shifted, the sky darkening rapidly as heavy clouds rolled in over the hills. The wind picked up, rustling the trees and pushing a chill through the air. Haru glanced up, his brows furrowed. "We should head back," he said, his voice steady but with an urgency beneath it. "A storm's coming, and it'll be bad if we don't make it back to shelter soon." Leo, who had been gathering the last of the herbs, turned toward him. The sky was now a dark shade of gray, clouds swirling with ominous energy. "Right. Lead the way." They moved quickly, each step more urgent than the last as the first drops of rain began to fall. The trail they'd walked earlier was now muddy and slick, the wind howling louder as the storm approached.